You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.
Hi, I want to welcome Rusty Levin and Harry Nabanian, both trial lawyers for workman comp cases. If you're injured on the job, don't hesitate. Contact an attorney. I did when I was wounded or injured on my job, and I thought I would trust my employer, and it didn't work out quite well, so I found Rusty Levin. Handled my case like a professional, worked out way better than any other lawyer that I talked to would have worked out. So Rusty, tell us a little bit about your company of Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers.
So at our firm at Levin Nabanian Trial Lawyers, we handle all matters of workers' compensation, personal injury, and employment disputes, wrongful termination matters, and things like that. We were able to help Mr. Reed out with his workers' compensation case. Unfortunately, workers' compensation injury can be very stressful, intense situation, and at Levin Nabanian, we try to get you the most benefit we can of the law, while also easing the stress and anxiety that comes along with that situation, and getting you back on your feet. My partner, Mr. Nabanian, he handles the personal injury sides, and I'll let him take it from there.
And just like all injured employees out there, anybody else who gets injured as a result of somebody else's negligence has rights, and the rights that they need to protect immediately. And they should do that by calling Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers and letting us help ease that tension off of you and get you the result you deserve, while also making sure that you get better in the progress. So we're here for you, folks.
Levin and Nabanian Trial Lawyers is the best company for you to get a hold of when you're injured or have a personal injury. So give them a call at
213-232-4848, 213-232-4848. Thank you.
And let them handle the stress for you while you recover at home. Thank you again. Bye-bye. Welcome to another exciting episode of The Voice of Reason. My co-host, Ted Durden's running a little late, so he might come in right in the middle of the opening of the show. For you that haven't tuned in before, this is a politically motivated podcast where normally my co-host, Ted Durden, a Southern Democrat, and myself, a West Coast Republican, talk about the political issues of the day without getting into a major battle. I don't know how many of you have watched the debates, the Democrat debate in Las Vegas, but I was really stunned about the performances of each and every single one of them. One of the things that was talked about outside of the debate was the fact that Mike Bloomberg, who has entered the race basically by paying his way to get into the race, owns Bloomberg News. Bloomberg News has been told by its owner, Mike Bloomberg, that they cannot investigate him while he's running for the presidency of the United States. In fact, he's told all of his investigative reporters, you cannot investigate me. You cannot talk about me. He has completely shut them down. He said, though, if you want to investigate President Trump, you can do all of the investigations that you want. You can dig up all the dirt that you want. In fact, he encourages it. This is why in the previous podcast, I've talked about my testimonies in front of the FCC in regards to vertical integration and consolidation. How 8 major corporations own 85% of everything you see, read, and hear is because they want uniformity of thought. The black hats against the white hats, and they create and spark this internal battle between Americans based on emotion and certain ideologies that are professed through the news broadcast. This is a disgusting turn of events when you watch a billionaire who used to be a Republican, then he was a Democrat, then he became an independent, then he became a Democrat again in order to run for the presidency of the United States, and now has spent over $450 million of his own money to flood the airways with his advertising. And I won't even get into the disgusting things that have been brought about of his communications and conversations of racism and sexism and misogyny. But this individual is no different than Bernie Sanders in his own way. They are here to destroy America. They are here to destroy the Democrat Party. And the Democrat Party used to be like the grand old party of the Republican Party. It used to be a grand party where both sides, Republican and Democrat, would come together and come together with proposals of legislation that was beneficial to the entire United States of America. This model has been destroyed by the far left and the far right. We need to get back to some kind of civility once again in our election process and our debate processes. Tonight, we have a taped interview. Again, it's the second portion. Last week we couldn't do it. Tonight we have the taped interview of the real deal, our southern border. The interview is with Tim Foley. Now, Tim Foley is the founder and still the CEO of the Arizona Border Recon, where they go out and they set the field cameras. They do the surveillance of the border, and they give all the tracking and the data. They don't encounter with the individuals coming across the border. What they do is they specifically just gather data and turn it over to the Border Patrol to help them in their endeavors to stop this corridor, this 150-mile corridor, where 60% of all the narcotics in America, all the illegal narcotics, where you have fentanyl, methamphetamines, you got heroin that's coming through these mules that are highly sophisticated. So this taped interview is pretty in-depth with Tim Foley. So we're going to, without any further ado, we're going to go to this taped interview now. Enjoy it. It's about 44 minutes long, so it's a lot of data in this interview. Enjoy it, and I'll see you back at the end of the interview. Hi, I'm Mark Reed, a West Coast Republican, here with my co-host, Ted Durden,
Southern Democrat.
Today we're here with Tim Foley, the founder of Arizona Border Recon. And let me tell you, this is one of the parts of our series that we're doing on the real deal, our southern border. Tim, I want to bring you into this conversation. Tell me, why is it that you do what you do at the southern border here in the Tucson, Arizona area?
Well, I started out 10 years ago when, after '08, with the housing collapse. I was in construction, and I got tired of hearing the narrative day in and day out from the government and the media, which was, oh, don't worry, they're just coming and doing jobs Americans won't do. Well, I was in construction and building high-rises, and I was leading a 150-man crew. 75% of my crew couldn't speak English, so I had to have an interpreter. Every Monday morning we would do a safety meeting, and I'd find out how many are missing, and I'd be missing at least a dozen guys, and I'm like, what happened? E-Verify caught them.
Right.
So they were illegals working in the country, and then 3 weeks later the same guys would show up on the job, and I'd say, well, what's happening? And I just took a couple weeks off, went out and bought a new Social Security card, a new ID, and it's going to take them another 3 or so months before they catch me again. So myself, like a lot of Americans, believed that E-Verify, once it found out you weren't allowed to work in the country, that you would be deported.
Right.
But E-Verify, basically all it does is go, hey, you can't work here, but it's okay if you hang out here and do some more identity theft.
Well, in that kind of construction that you're talking about, that's pretty high-skilled construction.
Yep.
So, kind of getting out in the essence, you know, here in Arivaca, there's a 20% population of Hispanics. They kind of don't like what you're doing because you're stopping not the labor aspects. You're stopping a serious drug smuggling trade with major mule trails going through the area over here by Jim's Ranch that we were just at recently. And some of these houses that are here in Arivaca are actually safe houses, right?
Yep. There's one right down the road. Border Patrol hit beginning of the year. Just shredded the place because they knew they were staying in there, and they pulled 18 out of it. But there's you'd be amazed how many of the white people in this town are also heavily involved.
There's a lot of money to be made
Oh, yeah.
because they're not necessarily muling marijuana anymore.
No.
They're
No.
muling methamphetamines, fentanyl,
And heroin.
opioids, heroin, all the high dollar stuff.
Go down to the there's a sign on the bar here in town.
Right.
Where, my name's on it, and Arizona Border Recon, not welcome.
Really?
Stay out,
Really?
yeah. It's because that's where a lot of the deals are made, is inside that bar. If you go in that bar tonight, being a weekend, you'll see how many people are high on meth. They're bouncing off the walls.
Right.
Oh, there's tons of meth in this town.
Well,
But
no-
it's the stop, and then it moves again.
And you also indicated, because we had a lot of off-camera conversation prior to the roll, and you indicated that there are also humanitarian drops that are done with blankets, water, socks, and so forth, where these mules, use them to replenish themselves.
Yep.
So again, it's not for humanitarian reasons,
No.
for illegal immigrant labor. It's for mule bringing drugs into this country.
Right.
And you get a lot of heat about that too, because you've turned people in, right?
Yep. You see, and what I do have to thank the liberal water droppers, as we call them, is the Forest Service, because this is all public land out here.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a right to be on it. And so the Forest Service tried to ticket the humanitarians, as they call themselves, for littering, because when you take something with you and you set it on the ground, you walk away. If you brought it in, you don't bring it out, it's littering.
Right.
So they ticketed a group of about 12 of them. They went to court, and the judge threw it out because it was humanitarian aid, a liberal judge, which benefited us actually, because in our early years, we were informed by Border Patrol that we could be charged with kidnapping, even though they're breaking the law coming in. If we didn't have their express consent to stop them, there was kidnapping technically. So now,
Wait, you couldn't do a citizen's arrest.
Nope.
That was going to be my question.
no,
You couldn't do a citizen's
nope.
arrest.
You
and
can't
detain
stop
them.
somebody
No,
from
no.
going from point A to point B, regardless if they're carrying drugs or whatnot, down here. So we took a play out of the humanitarians, and now when we do, we hand them a bottle of water and a granola bar, and I just saved your life. And so now we can't be charged with anything.
You know, of the people that are doing the humanitarian aid, you were mentioning once before, how many of them are actually from outside of the area and not understanding how much damage they're doing to this town?
I would say 75% come from other states. The ones who live in this area are the ones who actually are the drivers for the vehicles. And we have there's one called the Humanitarians. It's a church group out of Green Valley. And these people, they're must be in their 70s and 80s. And they're out there trying to put water out. But you can tell where their water drops are because they're so close to the road.
You know, something that we talked to Jim about, and that is that I think that everybody here doing what we're doing, we do have a understanding for the humane aspects of it. With your group, you've been called a vigilante group. You've been called a what do you call it? A quasi-military group. A paramilitary group. There we go.
Nazis,
Paramilitary group,
racist.
Nazis, white racists, all this neat garbage. But you do have an actual feeling for the humanitarian part of it. You find
Yeah.
a dead body out there,
Yeah.
it bothers you like anybody else. But that's not what you're trying to address. What you're trying to address is a serious aspect in the spin of Border Patrol. And what most of us digest is that 90% of the dope comes through the ports of entry. And in truth, 90% of the dope that gets caught
Right.
comes through the port of entry, but 90% of the dope that makes it through
comes through here.
Goes through these funnels that you're trying to stop and
Right.
plug out.
Right.
Now, what are the main challenges Border Patrol? Because my family. I mentioned you. My family is military, and it's also their police. Okay, so I have a lot of respect for the boots on the ground.
Right.
And I think if you have expressed your respect for the boots on the ground for the Border Patrol, what are the hindrances that they're facing in more of the admin, the legislation, the laws, the unions? What is tying their hands and their feet to the ground that they can't actually do the job that we think they're supposed to be doing?
Well, you hit it. I mean, the union hinders them a lot because it makes their workplace safety rules. So, like I say, if it's raining out there, they have to leave because they can't drive through moving water. And the other one is the bureaucrats sitting higher up in the desks, that are looking for that next level raise to keep climbing the ladder before they retire. Because the higher ups also get year-end bonuses.
Okay.
So a lot of people don't know that. In Border Patrol, they get bonuses.
Okay.
If the border is secure, so they spin the numbers.
So a little incentive to...
So they have a motto, the higher ups, that say, arrests are up, it's working. Arrests are down, it's working. So if we caught everybody coming through, so we're doing our job. Where's my bonus?
And if there are fewer people that they catch, then it must be working because fewer people
Exactly.
are coming through.
Exactly.
Now, the crazy thing that we talked about, you just said as far as the union is concerned, if it's raining outside. And of course, my own take on this is, you have the U.S. Post Office. Neither rain nor snow nor dead of night keep making our appointed rounds.
Right.
Now, that's delivering mail, and that's important. But what's happening here at the southern border is important as well. We're talking about drug trafficking. Now, I would imagine that based on the union policy, that if it's raining, for safety reasons, that Border Patrol has to leave the area. I would imagine that the mules or the scouts know this.
Yeah.
And so when there's inclement weather, or they can check the weather and know that rain is coming, then I guess it's safe to say they say, okay, get ready, because Border Patrol is going to leave and we can do our thing.
Yep.
Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, it's right on the money assessment. I mean, when we're out there and it starts raining, I tell my guys, wait 15 minutes and you'll see the first ground scout come, because when it's raining, normally down here when it's raining, it's thunderstorms. So you don't want to be on a radio in a thunderstorm. You zap yourself, especially if you're sitting on the mountaintop.
Right.
So they switch over to ground scouts. So the one guy will come through, turn around and go back, okay, let's go. And he brings them through. And sure enough, it's usually 15, maybe 30 minutes sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
You'll see one lone guy coming through. And all right, here they come. And then it goes back, and sure enough, they come through. But there's no Border Patrol out there.
So, in your opinion, your honest opinion, because with the Arizona Border Recon, a lot of your guys are ex-military. They understand tactics. They understand ground warfare. They understand human intel. Are the cartels really utilizing the exact same mentality with what they're doing?
Pretty much. I mean, they occupy all the high ground around here. I mean, in the area we try to operate in and secure, it's probably 400 to 600 square miles. And so that's, 40, 45 miles wide and 12 or 15 miles furthest back as we'll go. But
Right.
They're occupying in that area. I have over 75 cartel scout locations on mountaintops.
Right.
So they see everything that is moving out there. And it's
So that they're utilizing military tactics,
Oh, yeah.
high ground, spotters. They use human intel, because if they can't use radios, they got human intel going through. Now,
Well,
one of the things that you touched on, which I think is kind of important, and once again, I think we all have a lot of respect for the truth and honest and the good Border Patrol agents,
Oh, yeah.
cops, military, but we all know there's bad apples.
Yeah.
See, there's about 20% of them that are on the take.
I'd push it closer to 30.
Closer to 30% are on the take.
In the 10 years, I've turned in 2 agents and 1 supervisor.
Okay. And they went away. That's
Yep.
all. They
Yeah.
fired or whatever the case may be.
Yep.
We'll never find out because it's personnel issues and it's secret. Okay, so in truth, then you're looking at a real need by our Congress to really assess, do another risk assessment of the Border Patrol, its relationship pertaining to the Union, its relationship pertaining to law as well, and what's tying their hands to effectively secure the border. And as Jim was saying, is this deep defense, mentality of them. They want them to go ahead and come in 30, 40 miles.
Defense at depth is
Defense
the
at
program
depth,
they call it.
And it's I use the equivalent of let's play a football game. I said we're all sportsmen here.
See that thought process is coming from somebody who
In DC.
knows no tactics, that is sitting behind a desk, and their thought process with defense at depth is, well, if we fall back, then they'll be really tired and they won't run as much when we try to catch them 15 to 20 miles in.
Which is crazy because, again, you touched on something also when you said that the cartel occupies the higher ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are towers out there. So the towers don't even go as high up.
No.
And so you have the cartel that's even above the towers. And
Yep.
the towers only have, I think, what is it, a 30-mile radius?
30 kilometers,
30 kilometers.
which is about 18 miles.
And a lot of their views are blocked just by the landscape.
Yep.
So it's a waste of what? How much do they cost? $90 million?
$90 million.
So-
And their
so-
life expectancy is short.
So
10 years.
10 years.
So there's our that's our tax money at work.
Yeah.
Ineffective. A waste
Well,
of time.
I showed you the Google Earth of their mobile.
Right.
That's probably runs us about $5 million for
And they
that,
keep parking in the same spot.
for over 3 years now.
And again, the landscape, you have the mountains and the hills that they still can't see past.
Right.
And like we went out today at the California Gulch, it's a very deep ravine.
Yep.
Standing on the side of the road, you couldn't even see down
Yeah,
there.
you couldn't tell if there was somebody walking.
No,
down
you
there.
could not at all.
No.
Not at all.
You have to be down there.
Down
Right.
And that's what we do, I mean, last time I was out there doing an op with about 18 guys. I took 3 or 4 of them and we humped about 6 miles to the west, and we saw an agent sitting in his truck on a hilltop facing north. And I'm going, Walked right up on him. He goes, "Oh!" It's like, dude, really?
Wow.
He goes, "I thought you guys were way over there." I says, "We are." He goes, "How'd you get over here?" I was like, "We walked." He goes, "Wow, that's dedication." I was like, "That's the only way. If you go down here, you have to go east and west, up and over and up and over and up and
Right,
over,
right.
because there's so many different cuts. You have to go through every one of them to see if there's sign. You can't just go, well, I'll look in this one. Nope, nothing there, so it must be nobody nowhere."
Let me ask you this question. Are they really hindered by the environmentalists as well about where they can drive their trucks and vehicles? Can they use motorcycles out there for looking around?
They have a couple motorcycles, but they have we call them scoots, the quads.
Right.
It's changed since Trump has come in. I mean, there's just to the west of us, there's the Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge,
Right. I saw
which
that.
is
I saw that.
Department of Fish and Feathers, and there it took an act of Congress just to go in and regrade the road. But since Trump's been in, man, guys, they're punching new roads. It's like there's just bunny rabbits and quail, and they'll get out of the way.
Well, it's something I was talking about. I was reading some of the articles of the how would you say, activists in Arivaca, and they were saying, well, it's an environmental thing about putting the wall up. I'm a rancher. My family's been ranchers for going back 5 generations as well, 4 to 5, at least 4, no, 5 actually, thinking about it. And that wall is not going to stop. Any of the little animals are going to go through the cats, even the bobcats and mountain lions can go through. Their
Yeah.
head can fit through, they can go through.
Yeah.
The deer aren't going to go through. They're happy eating on this side, they're happy eating
Right.
on that side.
Right.
They're going to keep the cows on this side, so the cattle ranches here are going to be happy.
Right.
Right.
But it's going to slow down
Yeah.
the human trafficking.
It
to
won't
the point.
stop it, but
It's
it'll
not going to
slow it
stop
down.
it. It's going to slow it down so they can put the resources where it needs to be. But it gets into...
Well, that depends on the bureaucrat behind the desk.
Well, yeah, and if they can get more forward bases involved too. And if you were standing in front of Congress right now, what would you tell? If you had an opportunity to stand in front of Congress as a joint session with the Senate and Congress, what would you tell them?
Give me a shot at running this thing. I'll turn the whole thing around. I tell them, it can't be a 9-to-5 job. It's not a 9-to-5 job. You have to do you would have to do 1 week on, 1 week off type thing.
Right.
That way you're in there, you're embedded, and you can actually do something.
Right.
When you're driving 2.5 hours each way out of an 8-hour day, you ain't gonna do diddly. I mean, it's
Well, it's called a war on drugs for a reason.
I-
Wars are not fought in 8-hour increments. They're not.
No.
Like you said, wars are 24/7. It goes on all the time.
Well-
You either have to be doing things offensively or defensively at all times. We all know that in this room.
yeah.
We do. And so, like you said, driving 2.5, 3 hours one way out of an 8-hour day,
Yeah.
that's 5 to 6 hours.
Yep.
That means you're looking at perhaps 2 hours on the ground.
Well, that
What can you do with that?
it gives you time to eat your Carl's Jr. when you got down here.
Right.
But you brought up an interesting thing, the war on drugs.
Mm-hmm.
It's a government catchphrase.
Right.
We now have the war on terror. But the war on drugs been going on for what, over 40 years now?
Probably longer than that.
And so when the government puts that title on there, the war on drugs,
Mm-hmm.
that just means there's no goal, there's no objective, there's no end game. Let's just throw as much money at it as possible for as long as possible to make as many of our friends as rich as possible.
Well, as you know, if you're going to engage in war on anything, what's the first thing you do? Stop the supply chain.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's what
Stop
we
the
do.
supply
That's
chain.
what you do.
And see,
Are we doing that with the drugs?
no.
No.
And you've got the war on terror and the war on drugs. They're coming together right here
There's an overlap.
because of what happened over in Trump
Yeah, over in
dropped
Afghanistan.
a Christmas
Iraq,
present over
yeah.
in Iraq
Oh,
there
right,
the other
yeah.
day, and the
That's
guy
all
I
mine.
showed you that
Yeah.
I took the video to D.C.
Right.
They picked him up 2.5 months later by facial recognition. He was a Syrian. So they're already coming across and they're already in here.
Yeah, well, they've
You don't have to just worry about the drugs. It's not when it's going to happen, the next terror attack. It's if it's going to happen. It's when it's going to happen.
Right.
win. Exactly. They've identified over 150 different nations coming across the border illegally. Because that's a new money-making thing for the cartels over there.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
just drugs or
Well,
human
the-
trafficking.
The Syrian guy you saw in that video
Right.
costs a lot of money to have a 6-man armed escort.
Right.
Not your regular Jose from Guatemala can afford that.
No.
Right, and one of them had a badge on him, so
Right.
he's definitely some kind of a government individual
Right.
on the Mexican
That
side
is
of the border.
monitoring the government
Right.
radio.
Exactly.
So they got
Now,
people.
I want to read something to you, right? I'm not going to mention this particular congressman's name.
Okay.
I want you to comment on it because this is about the border issues, okay? So he comes out, he writes, just driving back to the valley, we just visited the ICE detention center in Adelano. It was heartbreaking to see the people who have lived in California since they were 5 years old and now, 30 years later, face deportation. This can happen due to a minor legal infraction or even no legal infraction at all. ICE calls it collateral enforcement. We need comprehensive immigration reform now. We will issue a longer statement on our visit soon. He shows up for a photo op at this detention center with his aide, right? And he puts this press release out. right, followed up by another press release, which is even more interesting. I know you're going to get a kick out of it, right? Ted, you want to read it? Because you got your glasses on, and I don't have my glasses on.
I was pleased to join Senator Mark Warner, Democrat out of Virginia, Congressman Mike Thompson, Democrat, California, Congresswoman Doris Matsui, Democrat, California, and Congressman Jimmy Panetta, Democrat, California, during a briefing and tour of Youth for Tomorrow with facility staff and staff from the Department of Health and Human Services, HHS. I had the opportunity to speak with some of the children that are currently being held at the facility. These children have faced unimaginable horrors coming to the United States, and the trauma of that journey is only perpetuated the longer they are separated from their families. The Virginia facility is a fine institution, but children should not be institutionalized when they can instead be reunited with their parents. The facility is currently housing 15 children that have been separated from their families at the border due to the Trump administration's zero-tolerance policy. The facility is working diligently to identify the location of the parents of these children. Unfortunately, the process of reuniting children with their families is hampered by a system that involves a string of entities including HHS, Customs and Border Protection, and U.S. Citizen and Immigration Services, USCIS, among others.
Now, this is a congressman from California. He goes to a California ICE detention processing center. Does a little photo op out front with this. I'll show you the picture. You'll probably get a kick out of it, right? You take a look at the picture. This is his campaigning thing about really dealing with the immigration stuff, right? But then he uses this emotional thing. Now, he's 3,000 miles away in Virginia.
Going after the guns?
How disconnected can you be?
I love the way they spin everything, because the part that you read, it even says, they even said they're trying to find their family. So these kids were basically rented out or sold for the person to come across the border. And that's in the beginning when we started separating the children. Everybody goes, oh my God, Trump's separated. The reason they were doing it was to DNA test.
Right.
Because 85% of the ones that are hanging on to a kid is not a relative.
Not necessarily, no.
So what happens? That kid goes to, just let him keep going and what, sex trafficking or...
Right.
It's asinine the way the left spins everything.
It's kind of crazy.
Everything.
It's kind of crazy because it's almost like they took a page out of what the Iranians and the Iraqis did when they used human shields to make sure the United States didn't attack. So these illegal immigrants do the same thing. They grab children, rent children, pay the families to bring them as a way to try to garner sympathy.
Yeah, and circumvent.
Right, the whole process.
And the part that you read, the original piece, he was talking about kids who've been here since they were 5 and now they're like 30 and they could face deportation. That's DACA.
Right.
Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals.
Right.
How long does Congress defer this for? So because this is happening, look in the mirror, these idiots need to do, is because they're the ones who are not, we need comprehensive immigration reform.
Well,
they keep saying that same phrase, but nobody does diddly about it.
Well, it's separating the two issues, Tim, and that is the two issues is you have Hispanics that are coming over here trying to do better. That's not an issue. I think we all can say, okay, great. It's an economic issue. You want to come here, try to do better. Let's knock on the front door. Let's fill out the paperwork. Come in. We don't have a problem with that.
Right.
What you're dealing with, though, and what they refuse to acknowledge, based on his stupid press release and his comments and his photo op in front of this ICE processing center, is the emotional hamstring and bureaucracy that's keeping the drugs flowing through the border.
Right.
At non-checkpoints.
Right.
And this is where the majority of it's coming through.
Right.
Because if you pack in, let's say 50 pounds of methamphetamines, let's say 50 pounds of fentanyl, 50 pounds of fentanyl can kill this whole freaking town.
More than this town.
Yeah, I
Just
know.
the whole damn state.
Yeah. I mean,
And
so
then some.
you're looking at it, it's moronic statements coming out of a congressman.
Well, you see, that's why they spun the 90% of the drugs are coming through the ports of entry.
Right.
So that way, see, they're coming through there, so we don't need a fence.
Right.
Don't spend your money on that. But then again, if you look back at the SBI, which was the Secure Border Initiative,
Right.
Congress approved building the wall back in 2005. They just never allocated the money for it.
Right.
So now you got a president who goes, hey,
Well,
it's already been okay, we just need the money.
Can't
Just
you
like-
actually say it was the wall was approved or border security was approved going all the way back to who?
Wasn't it?
Ronald Reagan.
Right.
And the Democrats crawdad on it because they got. This is why they said it was.
Well, he was the first one
amnesty.
also who gave amnesty.
Well,
to-
they called it amnesty because it was a two-package deal. He said, okay, we're going to give these guys, all the Hispanics or the illegals that are here,
Right.
we're going to give them a pathway to citizenship, but we want the border secured. Okay, well, they got the pathway to citizenship, but the border was
The
never
border was
secured.
never secured.
But as you're eloquently pointing out, you look at Clinton, you look at George Bush Sr., you look at George Bush Jr., you look at Obama. They've always approved a border wall.
Well, that's
Even Chucky Schumer, okay? Nancy Pelosi. If you
Oh,
look
yeah.
at Nancy Pelosi's
Yeah.
original campaigning stuff, we need to secure the border. They have said the exact same
Oh, yeah.
things this administration has said, but they refuse to do it because
Well,
it's
that's the
political
politician.
football.
They'll tell you exactly what you want to hear to get elected, and then turn around and stick it to you.
What changes would you like to see with the Border Patrol? Seriously, I mean, they value the boots on the ground value the work because you're getting intel that the bureaucracy won't let them get. You're getting this intel, but they're even reluctant to take it from you because it would make them do their job.
Well, not only make them do their job, but I think they're afraid because of how the media has portrayed us, you know. Oh, it's just this deranged white guy, racist, blah, blah, blah. And the sad part is, and the reason they do that is because they just focus right here on me,
Right.
the founder.
Right.
But they don't look at my ethnic makeup of my organization. Like over 50% is Hispanic males.
Right.
You know, I get females. I get the lady who immigrated from El Salvador. I get a guy who immigrated from Ghana. I got one coming out, this one, who immigrated from Uruguay. The guy who lives here, he's from Spain.
So they truly understand.
Well,
that
yeah.
a porous border is a
Oh
destruction
yeah, they love
of
their
our community.
their new country, and they want
Yeah.
to help protect it. But you see, that's what the media portrays me as the
As
bad
racist.
guy.
Right.
The racist, where I don't have a racist bone in my damn body.
Because at the end of the day, and it's like Mark, you and I've talked about, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, nobody wants to see drugs coming to the community or coming to this country. And it needs to be stopped at every opportunity, no matter where it occurs at, whatever side of the border it comes from. It needs to stop. And all your organization is doing is just that. And to be vilified by the media, trying to portray you as some white racist supremacist, which you're not, based on the makeup of the crew and the people that you work with. And again, it's just spin. That's all
Yeah,
it is.
yeah.
You know, why don't they put on video or put on NBC, MSNBC, CBS, ABC, the videos that Mark and I have seen of these drug mules coming across the border?
Right.
But they won't do that
And-
because it's easier to portray you as the bad guy rather than to face up to the reality of what's going on here.
This is why when I called you, I said, I don't want pictures of trash. We've seen this environmental pictures.
Right.
Right, yeah.
We want the real deal. And the real deal is there's heavily armed individuals out there.
Mm-hmm.
The Border Patrol knows
Occupying-
it as well.
Boatloads of land here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Jim's neighbor was killed after he found some dope,
Mhm.
right? Jim's been, he fears for his life every day
Right.
that he leaves his house.
So I get 3 or 4 threats a year from them.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you want, my phone number? You know where I live.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like Jim was saying, the MS-13 showed up on his property 200 yards from his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's what's coming through here. There's more and more MS-13 shrines that we're finding down there. We actually think that the MS-13 is going to start their own cartel. That's our organization's belief.
Well,
They are the largest, most violent street gang on the planet. And, right now they're just being enforcers for, they used to be with the Zetas. Now it looks like, since there's so many of them over here, that they're with the Sinaloa. But we don't know if it's with El Mayo or with Chapo Jr.
So the MS-13 is really becoming the enforcer, but not only that, the distribution hub as well.
Well, see,
Because all the money goes
that's
back.
another thing that people in this country, they don't realize that, the government says, oh, there's no cross-border violence. And there isn't. If you change the name of that violence. And here, on this side, it's called gang violence. Because every one of these gangs is killing each other on the street corners in every major city in this country is vying for that territory to sell the crap that's coming across this border right here. They all work for a certain cartel. The Bloods, the Crips, the Latin Kings, Norteños, the Serranos, MS-13.
All the money flows back
to Mexico.
It's a distribution hub. That's all it is.
They're
It's
the foot
massive
soldiers
distribution.
in this country,
Right.
basically. So cross-border violence has been going on for decades.
Right.
But if you reclassify it, then it's not that bad of a problem.
Well, with El Chapo's arrest and taken out of the market, and El Chapo's son, which the Mexican government already proved they were completely inept at holding him because they got into a major gun battle and let him
he
go.
walked away. Right.
AMLO's bought and paid for.
Right. Okay, so the Mormon family that's been battling those drug routes that
For
were
10 years.
slaughtered, okay, out there, the 3 mothers and the 9 children
Right.
that were slaughtered out there, this is what's coming here soon.
They've been fighting for that strip of land there against that Mormon clique for 10 years now.
10 years.
Yeah, because it's a valuable drug trafficking route. And they wouldn't give it up. And so the cartel, the way they work is if they go toe to toe with you and you don't back down, then they'll wait. And they'll go after your soft side, the underbelly.
Well, they're wolves.
And that's the women and the children.
They're wolves.
To make you think, all right, see, we'll get you one way or another.
Yeah.
But Mitt Romney those are his relatives.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're the Western Hemisphere's version of ISIS.
Well, they're just as
They
brutal and violent.
They
If you
chop
look
people up
at
into little pieces. And
you look at the death rate, 34,000 murders in Mexico, okay, in 1 year.
Yeah.
They've put people alive in hot boiling oil.
yeah,
They cut them up. They use chainsaws, machetes.
they put
It's
dynamite
unbelievable.
taped to their neck.
Yeah, I mean, they're worse than ISIS in a lot of different ways.
Yeah,
It's just not reported.
And you got to be one sick individual to do some of the stuff I've seen. I'm just like, man, my own worst enemy. I would just once in the head and go, all right, you're done.
Yeah.
But after that, then
Cut them up, dismember them. Yeah.
it's just,
Well, to do it alive. I mean,
yeah. Oh, I've seen one where they skin the dude, his
Yeah.
whole back, and then they flip him over and do his belly while he's alive, just screaming. These are animals.
Wow.
I've had people from the south side who
Wait a minute, how'd you call them animals? You're going to get attacked like Trump did for calling
or
them
PETA.
animals.
I got people from the south side who come talk to me,
Yeah.
and because I'm not government.
Right,
And I go, if we show you where they live, will you come and take them out for us?
right.
I said, I would love to, but we can't. And, the Mexican people don't, that's gun control. You want to see what gun control is going to look like in this country? Look at Mexico. They have one gun store in Mexico City, and it's run by the Mexican military.
Right. Well, it's illegal to own guns in Mexico privately.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, you can't own them, but there's
So,
more guns in
but
Mexico
that's-
than here.
yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So that perfect example of gun control.
This is why watching some of these mule trains coming through, these are seasoned combat attitude hardened individuals. They're all within 18 to probably 30 years old, nothing more than that. Because that's really, we went there. It's hard terrain. You've got to be a seasoned individual, both mentally and physically, to sit there and pack a 70-pound pack on your back and gear, because they have their food gear also on their belly packs. So you have to be pretty much combat ready, in essence. okay, to be able to be doing this for
You
them.
would do it when you're older.
I'm
60.
You have to have a purpose and a reason.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is no different than the military. Is you go after the 18s,
Yeah.
25 years old, because they don't. Their moral fiber changes. Okay, because it's like they're trying to make money. That's all they care about is making money. You get in my way, and I'm going to kill you.
Right.
And they don't think twice about it. When we're at our ages right now, the only way we would end up killing somebody is if our life was really a threat.
Right. Okay.
Then even then it would be difficult to kill them. We would still do it to protect our lives. But these individuals right now that are coming across, when I say they're combat hardened, their mind and their body are hardened to that one objective: get that pack across. Because the other thing behind them is the cartel.
Mhm.
You screw up, we're going to kill you.
Yep.
You rat us out, we're going to kill you.
Mhm.
So they have a lot
And your family.
and their family, exactly, because they're brutal.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
I would really, I think we've covered a lot of ground. You have a last question?
No, I'm good.
No. My last question, Tim, to all the naysayers out there that say you're a paramilitary group, white supremacists, all this stuff, what do you say to them to say of the urgency, the existential threat that we have coming across the border? It's not the poor family coming across and the children. It's not the poor worker working in the restaurant or in the hotel or in the fields picking fruits and stuff. This is a business that's not being throttled back by our government.
Mhm.
What do you want to say to the people?
Well, I mean, if anybody wants to see, you can go to our website, ArizonaBorderRecon.org. I mean, our rules of engagement are up there for everybody to see, our standard operating procedures. We don't hide anything. I mean, when we're out in the mountains, we don't run around with cool little call signs like dog snake or something.
Right.
You know, we wear our last name on our
And
gear
you-
just like
and
the
you
Border
follow-
Patrol
you
does,
follow
and just
the
like
law.
we did in the military.
You-
And we follow everything by the law.
Right.
We treat everybody out there. I tell my guys, look, put yourself in their boat. Treat them the way you would want to be treated. Because when it's out there, when it's 120 degrees out there, I know I sure in the hell wouldn't want to die of thirst. So my guys actually, during the summertime, we carry extra water with us in case we
Right.
run across people. But, so you can go to our website to see what we're all about. You can go to our YouTube channel, ArizonaBorderRecon.org, and see what we see. You know, I've had liberal media say, well, you know, you just don't show the women coming across. I go, why? I wouldn't have. I don't need to hide that. It's not there. I mean, everything we see,
Right.
I put up. You know, we have media reports from all around the planet. The Japanese love us.
Well, I went to the border and I interviewed a lot of the people in the caravan, and came to realize 90% of them were, military age males.
Mm-hmm.
There were some kids, there were some females, but maybe 10%, and that was it. But the media was propping it up like it was all the families coming across. It wasn't.
Right.
It really wasn't.
No.
And they have a crisis going on over there.
Well, you see, what people don't understand is that during Obama's term, to stop the illegal immigration or stem the flow of it, he offered El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras $1 billion a year. Because they said, well, we can't stop it. We need money for infrastructures, for jails, and blah, blah,
Right.
blah, blah. So he signed a thing. They each get $1 billion a year for 10 years. So these corrupt leaders of those three countries are going, hell, let's just give them a damn bus ticket and we'll party like a rock star.
Well, they're all drug cartels down there anyways. A
Yeah.
lot of the president.
But we gave each country basically $10 billion.
The president of Honduras is on the international
Oh, yeah.
drug cartel list. His brother was busted
Just
on
busted,
the East Coast.
yeah.
Right. I mean, so they are known drug traffickers.
Oh, yeah.
One more time with your website.
ArizonaBorderRecon.org.
You want to give out your email address if somebody wants to send you an email and ask a question.
There's a contact us page on our website.
Right on there.
Yep, there's Arizona Border Recon on YouTube. We're on Facebook, and we are a self-funded. And you've seen some of my gear. It's expensive to do this.
Yes.
So we
Well,
have
a lot of the gear we can't even talk about because you're doing stuff our border agents can't do, and you're trying to handle that intel.
right.
And it's perfectly legal to do, but we can't expose it. That's
Right.
it. Tim, I want to thank you for coming on our show.
Pleasure.
Absolutely, and thank
Pleasure.
you for the work that you're doing, because we are on a real war.
Yeah.
But we're not tactically winning it. And it's
No.
not that cliched war on drugs, like keeping the little kids from smoking marijuana.
No.
It's a war on drugs, meaning stopping the supply chain.
Yep.
Yes. So
Um,
for everybody who's tied in and watched this particular episode, this is a series of the real deal, our southern border. Please take a hard look at what your politicians are doing. Take a hard look at what your senators doing, your congressmen's doing, and see if they're really dealing with what's happening at the border. Ted?
And here's what I want to say. Having had the opportunity to sit down with this man and see what he's doing, I have a lot of respect and admiration for what you do. I put a challenge out there to the liberal media, to any Democrat, anybody that questions what this man's ethics and what his motives are. Come down here and spend a week on the ground with him. Get embedded with him and see for yourself what he deals with on a daily basis, putting his life, the members of his crew's life, in danger to protect this country. Because that's all he's doing. That's all he's doing. He's doing his part to stop the drug of illegal drugs in this country. I offer that challenge to any of you. I hope some of you take me up on it.
Thank you again.
Hi, my name is Ted Durden, and I want to take a moment to talk to you about trust, and I trust churchandlaw.com. When it comes to workers' compensation and employment law, you can trust churchandlaw.com. If you ever need legal advice you can rely on, it's churchandlaw.com. Black and white, no gray, churchandlaw.com. 818-230-3110. churchandlaw.com. A law firm you can trust and count on.
My erstwhile opponent says I don't accept debate invitations. I accept the League of Women Voters invitation.
The League of Women Voters LA chapter was the one who invited him to the 5 debates with the battered women's organization, with a synagogue, 2 churches, and the American Legion. And he turned down them all flat with the League of Women Voters. Welcome back to the Voice of Reason. What an incredible interview. I'm getting some feedback here. What an incredible interview with Tim Foley, with the CEO of the Border Recon. I looked tired on that one. We had a hell of a day that day.
It was a long day.
It was a long night beforehand, too.
It was.
But, boy, a lot of information came out in that. I hope you guys really enjoyed it. Prior to the show starting, and before that interview starting, I got into a little bit of a discussion about Mike Bloomberg and the Las Vegas debate that took place with the Democrats, and how I was really shocked how it turned into a food fest of war, of words, and really not covering any major topics of policy or how they're going to improve this great nation. They really went after each other like crazy. I mean, Buttigieg was attacked, and Elizabeth Warren was going after her. I always have a hard time saying that one gal's name, Amy.
Clonafar,
something like that.
The
senator. That's a hard name, but they really went after each other. What do you think about that, Ted? Being a registered Democrat, watching that debate. This is one of those moments you're going,
like I said, you can't leave the South without having phrases. It was like watching somebody eat their young. That's really what it made me think of.
Deliverance.
It really did. I mean, to me, it was so counterintuitive. It was so counterproductive. Going after, attacking Mike Bloomberg and then Pete Buttigieg, attacking Clomiphar, or whatever, Amy's name, Senator Amy, attacking her. I mean, it was just ridiculous because, to me, the whole debate was motivated by fear.
Yeah.
And the fear, of course, with Michael Bloomberg and his unlimited resources at this point, the amount of money that he has spent on this presidential campaign. And, they sharpened their swords last night. And they slice and dice each other.
Yeah.
The really sad part to me in all of this was Joe Biden stood there like a deer caught in the headlights.
Oh no, it was the first time that he can basically be asleep the whole debate and look normal.
Right, he didn't. He was.
He didn't even have to talk. He just let everybody else go at it.
And again, another saying, he was as quiet as a mouse pissing on cotton.
Yeah,
really and truly. And maybe he thought for once it was just good not to be the target of so much acrimony, perhaps. And Bloomberg took a lot of the heat. But like I said, all it does is inflict harm upon each other. It doesn't serve any purpose. It really and truly doesn't. What do you
think, since we got limited time? What do you think of the fact that it's actually helping a non-Democrat? Bernie Sanders is not a Democrat. You know that. He was never a registered Democrat. He was an independent, went to the Democrat Party to run on the Democrat platform.
Right.
But realistically, he is a socialist.
He is, and admittedly,
he's very proud of it.
Right.
And it's actually helping him. That debate helped him quite a bit. When Super Tuesday comes along, what do you think that if he ends up becoming the nominee?
Well, I've been unabashed about it, and I've said it. If Bernie Sanders ends up being the Democratic nominee,
I'll bring my Republican registration papers in for you.
Shut up. Ain't nobody good. Not for me. I don't need that. I don't know why you keep doing that, man. Matter of fact, I don't burn that elephant in effigy. But I've always said, if Bernie Sanders is the Democratic presidential nominee, then Trump is going to do a polka right back into the White House, because this country, as novel and as trendy the idea and the concept may be, to have a socialist leading this country, America in general does not want a socialist society. That we're a capitalistic society. We always have been from day one. So to think that we're going to elect somebody who proudly proclaims that he's a socialist, it's not going to go anywhere. That's a non-starter.
It's giving the presidency without a fight to Donald Trump.
It really and truly is.
Now, I brought up the fact, we talked a little bit about it while we were watching the tape interview, because we only got a minute and a half.
Right.
Your words and thoughts on the ordering by Mike Bloomberg to the Bloomberg News Agency that he owns, that the 1,700 reporters that he has, he's untouchable. He said flat out, you cannot report on me. You can't dig up dirt on me. You can't report of the dirt that you know of me inside of this agency, because they know what's gone on with his businesses, with the NDAs and the harassments and everything else. What do you think about that? Because you've heard me in the testimonies I've had in front of the FCC in regards to the vertical integration and consolidation of media, that he owns a fairly large news agency, and he's telling them flat out, go out and get Trump, report on Trump, dig up dirt on Trump, but don't touch me. What do you think about that?
Well, not just Trump, anybody for that matter. And to me, what he did in that moment, and he called out a flag behind that, that is the equivalent of asserting your own Fifth Amendment right. Because he did that to make sure that the people that work for him do not inflict harm upon him. That's why he did it. Because as you have so correctly pointed out, they know what's going on. It's no different, really and truly, when Donald Trump has people on his show, like on The Apprentice, signing non-disclosure statements. It's the same thing. So you can't sit there and criticize Trump for doing that, but you engage in the exact same behavior on a broader scale. Because I think he has something, I think you mentioned, he has something like 1,700 reporters that
right.
Journalists that report.
That's a news agency, and he's created a war within his own company because the reporters there, the good ones, are really upset about it.
Oh, yeah.
But on that note, we're done with the show this evening. I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We have Sheriff Mark Lamb is going to be interviewed, is in taped interviewed of our Arizona trip with the real deal at our southern border. So thank you once again for tuning in. Send us notes, send us comments. We look forward to seeing you next week. Ted, bring it on home.
And remember, as the primary approaches, every vote counts. Every one. Vote for the candidate that best reflects your values. Pure and simple.
Who should they vote for in the 30th district?
Vote for you, Mark Reed.
That's right.
Hey, I've already given you one plug. How many more you want? Anyway, just remember, ignorance prevails when rational minds sit back and do nothing. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason with Mark Reed and Ted Durden, only on LA Talk Radio.